What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is the top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
They do it for real. Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So the exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can mythically look at and say, wow, well, if he would have did that back when he was 10 years younger or 8 years or 12 years ago, he would have beat him. You understand me? Because we know boxing.
Which if he hits you because he's so accurate, he's going to drop you or could put you to sleep. But like not necessarily power punch. Like Edwin De Los Santos is a hard hitter. He would even have a hard time with rollies. I'm not even kidding.
They said Gervonta Davis was too small. They said Jake Paul was too strong. But what happens when skill meets size? The answer will blow your mind. Don't blink. This fight might not last 3 rounds. Boxing experts are breaking down why Gervonta Tank Davis would destroy Jake Paul in just 3 rounds. Gareth A. Davis explains that during the press conference, Tank stayed calm and silent while Jake tried to mock his height and confidence. He looked quiet, almost hesitant, but Gareth believes that once the bell rings, Tank will explode like a storm. His speed, power, and timing will shut Jake down completely. The silence before the fight is just the calm before Tank's violent storm.
Went about the presser.
He reminded me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to his favourite Liverpool seat.
All right.
You'll relate to that, won't you?
Yeah.
It was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to. Just going to plug this in as well. I just realised it's not plugged in. It was almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oaf in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oaf who kept posturing, and he just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Ryan Garcia doesn't hold back his anger about this matchup. He calls the fight a total insult to real boxing. Ryan says the size difference is ridiculous and unfair. It's not a real competition, just a show for views and money. He reminds everyone that boxing is supposed to be about skill, discipline, and legacy, not viral fame or social media stunts. Watching a smaller fighter like Gervonta face a naturally bigger man like Jake Paul feels wrong to him. Ryan says this fight sends a bad message to young fighters that hype and followers matter more than hard work and respect. To him, it's not entertainment, it's disrespect to the sport he loves.
Mainly Jake's end, we're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. Right. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Nobody cares, bro. If LeBron's missing the shot, he's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Yeah. And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter. Yeah. And to me, that's just... it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit, bro, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
Well, we got to play devil's advocate because people were saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that
Well,
to you?
I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147, and I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
Nobody was complaining when he was fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's called me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson, low-key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But he was 60 years old. I mean,
Right.
what the fuck we talking about
60.
here?
That's crazy.
Veteran boxer Sean Porter looks at the fight as a sign of what's wrong with modern boxing. He says today's fighters care more about quick paydays than long-term greatness. In his eyes, Gervonta is one of the most talented fighters alive, but chasing a fight with Jake Paul makes it look like he's choosing fame over history. Porter says real legends fought for glory, not followers. They risked everything to become immortal in the sport. Now, many fighters chase short-term money, brand deals, and social media attention. Porter warns that this kind of thinking is slowly killing boxing's true spirit.
But why are you doing that? How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's presented to me. That's when I think about it. And I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential and the list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
Many boxing analysts say the problem isn't only with fighters, it's also with the fans. They believe the modern audience fuels this circus by choosing drama over discipline. Real technical fights between world-class boxers get ignored, while influencer fights break records. Social media's short attention span has turned boxing into entertainment instead of sport. They argue that Jake Paul isn't the main problem, it's the audience rewarding chaos instead of skill. When fans care more about viral trash talk than true competition, fighters lose motivation to chase greatness. Real champions fight for titles, influencers fight for clicks. And as long as fans keep paying for hype, boxing will keep losing its balance between sport and spectacle.
Boxing has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff, not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault.
One of the biggest concerns experts have is the size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Jake usually fights around cruiserweight, while Tank's natural class is lightweight. That's a huge gap. Analysts warn that even though Tank is more skilled, physics still matter. Jake has the size, reach, and power advantage, and that could make this fight dangerous. Jake can take punches from bigger men, but Tank would have to step inside against someone taller, heavier, and stronger. Critics say such mismatches shouldn't even be allowed in real boxing. On paper, Jake has the size, Tank has the skill. But the risk makes it controversial, another sign that boxing is being twisted by entertainment more than competition.
How do I even start to break down a Tank Davis versus Jake Paul fight? Tank, a massively powerful fighter at 135 pounds, but his punch output is among the lowest in the sport. Jake has a pretty decent punch output for a guy that's 200 pounds. He hits hard in his own right, but doesn't have the skill and capabilities anywhere close, or the feet, or the hand speed, or the eyes anywhere close to Tank Davis, but has a power that Tank Davis has probably never felt, but just because Jake is naturally 70 pounds bigger than him, right? So 10 rounds, 3 minutes, who starts to show the wear and tear first? I know if Tank touches him on the jaw, it's probably not going to feel like roses, regardless if he's 135 or 150 or whatever he steps in that night. He's still a Tank and has still put guys down as he's gone up in weight, but Jake is just so much bigger. How much will the power that Tank has at the lower weight classes affect